Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angelo Gonzalez, and I have the privilege of serving as the executive director of an initiative called Mission Graduate at United Way of Central New Mexico. And I am also going to be your moderator today. I am not Monica Armenta. She sends her regrets. So I'm really lucky to be up here to be with this distinguished body of folks, members of the ABC Community School Partnership Board. And what we want to do today is really share with you the Albuquerque Bernalillo County story, our history, our experience, and where we're going as we move forward together. So I'd like to introduce our panelists to get us started. Immediately to my left right here is a man who wears many hats, Brad Winter. The first thing I want you to know about him is that he is a longtime educator and our former superintendent here at Albuquerque Public Schools. But he is also a city councilor since 1999, and currently serves as our New Mexico Secretary of State. So welcome, Dr. Winter. Next to Dr. Winter is Maggie Hart-Stebbins, who currently serves as a commissioner of the Bernalillo County Commission and is our current chair of the ABC Community School Partnership Board. Welcome, Commissioner Hart-Stebbins. And I neglected to mention that Dr. Winter is our upcoming chair, correct? Right. Yes, okay. To Commissioner Hart-Stebbins' left is Dr. Annalie Maestas, who is a very good friend of community schools and a member of the Albuquerque Public Schools Board of Education and also the executive director of a really great school known as La Promesa Early Learning Center. Welcome, Dr. Maestas. Next on the panel is Gilbert Montaño, who serves as Chief of Staff to Albuquerque Mayor Richard Berry, who you heard from yesterday. Welcome, Gilbert. And then you all know my good friend Jose Munoz, who is the inspirational and amazing leader, the executive director of the ABC Community School Partnership. So welcome, Jose. So I want to get us started. We're going to do some questions to the panelists to start to flesh out the story a little bit. And so I want to get started with Dr. Winter. If you can give us a little bit of a history of how this unique partnership, the ABC Community School Partnership, came to be.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for being here. It's great to see everybody here. And it's been an interesting journey for me. I became a city councilor in 1999 and really started working on community schools from the very beginning. So it's been great to see a few people in 1999 that really talked about community schools and a partnership to having the national conference here in 2016. So to be able to see that in my lifetime and my career is a wonderful feeling for me, so I appreciate it. It's been an interesting journey, and I'm going to try to hit some highlights because it hasn't been very smooth along the way, and it's really taken a long time, but there's been some strategic points for us. In the late 90s, we had a city councilor that started this task force, and it really didn't have much to do with community schools for the fact that the city spends a lot of money building community centers. So we thought, let's get a task force to see how we can use the school so we don't have to build as many community centers in our city. And so it kind of started like that. And so I became a city councilor in 1999, and I've been an educator all my life, and I'm an educator that decided that we needed more educators as elected officials to make policy, and so that's how I got started. And so, 1999, we really kind of, myself and a few others, started looking at community schools. And so just in 2000, we had one school, Grant Middle School, who decided they were going to be a community school. So the city said, well, we're going to give you $50,000 grant to help make that happen. So that was kind of the very first funding. But then something else happened that plays a part later on, is we had a city councilor that decided he wanted to have a middle school initiative grant fund for schools. So it was over $1 million and a high school retention grant. And so what we would do, and the city would run this program, and schools could apply for these grants for after-school initiative, before-school initiatives, or any really neat programs they had during the day. So that passed, and that was in 2000. And it's been a real fight through the years to keep that money because of budget cuts and everything that happens, but the city has managed to keep that money for the schools since then. And it looks a lot different now than it did then. So the next big point as we came in is we started working with Bernalillo County, Albuquerque Public Schools, City of Albuquerque, the mayor's office, and said, how do we start moving this forward? So we did the Joint Powers Agreement in 2006. And this is very cool because when you have all these government agencies working together for a common goal, that's what makes it work. So we all signed this Joint Powers Agreement. The city, the county, Albuquerque Public Schools, the mayor's office was involved, United Way became involved, and basically said, you want to be part of this board, you're going to have to give money or you're not going to be part of the board. So everybody gave a little bit of seed money. So that's how we started, with a little bit of money. But from 2006 to about 2011, we had meetings, but we didn't move forward very much because we didn't have an executive director. We didn't have Jose at that time. And so we'd have meetings. We would do small projects. We still had the middle school money that the city oversaw, and it was a hit and miss. I think during that time what we were really trying to do is to get the word out about community schools and to get a good definition of community schools so people in the community could understand what community schools are. And so we worked hard. Then the big changes came in 2011. So the board got together and we hired Jose as our executive director, which was a huge deal for us. We had somebody to really work. And then 2012, we still didn't have any money, and we were looking at some grants that fell through. So we still had our seed money. So I got together with another city councilor, Councilor Garduno, and I said, look, we've got this $1 million+ money from the city that the city oversees, which is the middle school initiative. Let's see if we can get the council to give this money to the ABC Community Partnership to disperse, because they'll do a better job than we will. And so that passed. And from that point, it's been uphill all the way. Jose's done a fabulous job, Bernalillo County. You know, and the biggest thing I'd say about the program and what really makes it work is when you have buy-in from all these government agencies that have the same vision, it's gonna work. If you don't, it's not gonna work. So I'm very excited about where we are today, where we came from humble beginnings to where we are now, and so it's just very exciting.
Excellent. So we've gotten a little bit of the history, and we have a lot of great work going on right now. Commissioner Hart-Stebbins, can you give us a little bit of a feel for what community schools in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County are like? What goes on in community schools here?
Great, I'd be happy to. And thank you, Dr. Winter. You know, I've been on the Community Schools Partnership for about 7 years, but I didn't really know all the early history, so thank you. And I want to say thank you to you and all the other local government people who founded this. So you've given this great organization to build on. I want to start by welcoming everybody to Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. All of you who have come from other states and other countries, we're really happy to have you here. I also want to thank all of the people who've come from New Mexico and central New Mexico to learn about what we're doing here and to help expand this network around the state. So really, I've never seen so many people in this ballroom ever in my life, so this is really exciting. And just before I start, I just also want to say thank you to the Convention Center staff and to all the people who are here today who prepared this meal and who are serving us this meal. You know, we could not do these events without you, so thank you. So Dr. Winter's given you, I think, sort of a picture of the early history. You know, we now have, when I joined the board 7 years ago, we had very strong representation from our local governments, so from the city, from the county, from Albuquerque Public Schools, and from the private sector. So United Way has had a seat at the table with us. ABEC, which is a local business collaborative, has been at the table with us. So it's that public-private partnership that has been really key to our success here. You know, we have top leadership from all these elements, public and private, that just bring a lot of intellect and influence and resources to the table that's been really fundamental to our success as we have been able to move forward. And we're all united in one common goal, and that is the success of the students in our community. So, you know, why do we do this? New Mexico school children face tremendous challenges. You know, in this state and in this city and this county, we have a very high rate of poverty. And all the problems that result from poverty, food insecurity, homelessness, poor access to healthcare services, adverse childhood experiences, you know, that sometimes lead to, or can often lead to, higher rates of anxiety and depression and substance use disorders. And of course, all of that impacts a child's ability to focus on academics once he or she comes into the classroom. And that's very real to me because the district I represent has 3 very significant pockets of poverty where the families I represent are actually dealing with these issues on a daily basis. So it's been really wonderful to be a part of this partnership because we can actually do something about that. We can actually kind of identify families and schools that are at risk and begin to build a support system and bring the social services that they need to the school site where it's accessible. And it's hard to pack everything into 4 minutes, but I thought I'd focus on what are the keys to our success, or our success so far, and I think our continued success. It's having the right leadership at the table. I think the structure that Dr. Winter described, that he helped put into place, brought influential people with resources, again, united around one common goal. And that's been really important. Having the right leadership at the table, number one, and making an investment in good staff. I think Dr. Winter really pointed that out, that when we made the decision to invest in a full-time executive director, that made a big difference. And we were really, truly blessed to have somebody, Jose Munoz, who had sort of the commitment, the heart, and the capacity, to really move us forward. And so how long have you been executive director? 2.5 years? 4 years? Oh, time flies. I knew Jose because he had been coming to our board meetings as a volunteer all these years. And so we knew he was really the right person when we looked for a director. So as I said, we're really blessed to have him sort of leading us forward. I think another element to our success is that we have focused on teachers, school leadership, and staff. We do have, amazing educators in our community. And we have, we've had a lot of really wonderful superintendents, including Dr. Winter for a period of time. We've got Raquel Reedy right now, who's really just an amazing person. And we trust them. And I think that's a really important element, that we trust what our educators are doing in the community. They know their students, they know their families, and we support what they want to do. Another very important element, when Jose came on as our executive director, and Angela was a really important part of this, we had a very specific data-driven process for prioritizing schools, using community data, neighborhood data, test scores, attendance rates, to begin to prioritize, to target our resources at the schools that really were most in need. And so everything that we have done since then has been data-driven and data-supported, so that we can defend, as a board, we can defend the investments that we make and measure the results, which, in some cases have been really strikingly positive. I think those are, kind of some of the really key factors in our success. I think the third factor that I talk about all the time, and Dr. Winter put it really well recently, that the Community Schools Partnership belongs to none of us, but it belongs to all of us. And so really all of these powerful people who sit at the table in this board, we all are focused on student success, not in, trying to take credit for what's going on here. So I think in my 7 years as an elected official, this has certainly been the most rewarding board I have ever served on. So I think that kind of sums it up.
So I want to pick up on this theme of community schools belongs to all of us. And I'm going to turn to Mr. Montano next. The ABC Community School Partnership has the word partnership right in its name. Who are the partners in ABC? Who's involved in this initiative to make it work?
Thanks, Angelo. And I'd be remiss if I didn't welcome everybody as well. I know my boss did the welcoming yesterday, but this is one of the special events and one of the special programs that really has had a long years of planning for us. And we're a larger city. We're a mid-large city, I guess. I think it's the 32nd largest city in the country. And we have a relatively large city government, about 6,000 employees, about $1 billion budget. And it's the little things like this that really we're not directly involved in. We share on a board, but we try to support our education system as much as we can. But it's the little things like this that really drive us as administrators, and I know the mayor's extremely a firm believer in the project. So thank you for everyone out here for what you do. It really is an important work, and I just want to say to the esteemed panel here, thank you for allowing me to be on this panel. What I can say about the panel is that I'm certain we're all parents on the panel. We all care deeply and love this city and county. And speaking with each one of them individually, to my right and to my left, they are really what helped make this so successful, because they love our children, they love our city, they love our county. And so I just wanted to say a quick thank you on that. And then dive right into the question of who's involved, because I was kind of happy I got this question, frankly, because it's probably what makes our community school program so successful, and that's who's involved. You know, often in education, I'm sure many will nod their heads and understand that there's so many silos that start becoming created for policy X, policy Y, initiative B, initiative C. And certainly that's the case in Albuquerque, and I'm sure New Mexico and everywhere else. But what's unique about community schools is we really have those players that are often siloed in different agendas or policies or initiatives coming together. So we have advocates all supporting moving the ball forward in this strategy to really go back to, you know, it takes a community to raise a child, and that's an important factor, all swords down, to really move forward. So we have folks like our teachers union that you saw earlier supporting this, one of our local YDI nonprofit agencies. We have Mission Graduate, who's Angela's really involved with. We have the Boys and Girls Club. We have Unidos. I saw some members here. We have CNM, our community college, UNM involved. We have APS involved. Now, these are all different, huge, large entities, all supporting a common goal and a common reason. And that's special. I think that's really indicative of all of the people laying down their swords, frankly, and really focusing on the children and how to move that agenda forward. And I'd absolutely love to mention on the other side of it, the leadership side of it, on who's involved is, and it's been touched a little bit. You know, we have, I think I'm one of the only non-elected officials on the board, so I can speak from a little bit different perspective and explain that, you know, we get politics is in just about every walk of life, but, you know, one of the things I can most honestly say is not once have I been on this board and ever seen a shred of politics really come up to stall, dictate, move along. And I think that's really special of the elected members that have chosen to serve on this board, is they really frankly set aside, and it's a bipartisan board completely. I mean, every agenda item really does never take a lens of politics. And I think that's also important when you're having a community school board like this, where, you know, you can hash it out on policies across the gamut, but when you come in and you're focusing on your kids and the education, that just doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with our nonprofits and others that I mentioned before. Their policies are not driving what the outcome of community schools initiative would bring.
Great. Okay, Dr. Maestas, I want you to talk for a little bit about what this means from a community perspective. So what do community schools mean to our community and to our students in our community?
Okay, thank you, Angelo. And once again, welcome to all of you to Albuquerque and to New Mexico. And we were very, very fortunate to have many visitors in our schools really look at the work that is taking place in our schools. We had a wonderful group that also visited La Promesa, and one of the first questions that we received was red or green, because we provided lunch. And guess what I said? Christmas, which means both. But you know, I want to thank Dr. Winter for giving a little bit of the history around community schools. But I do want to mention that community schools and the effort around how we support our students and our families has been a long time coming. And in the 90s, there was an attempt to really implement community schools. And actually, one of the godfathers to that work, George Otero, is here, and still continues to do that work, right now working in Australia. So I was privileged to be able to go and visit and visit the session yesterday. So it was really interesting to see that the work that is taking place for many, many years is still here. But I think what's really made the difference are the people who've been a part of this work as part of policymakers. And in the 90s, when we attempted to do this work, that collective impact was not there. The synergy that we feel right now with many groups coming together with the passion to support our families, to support our students, has been imperative and critical to the work moving forward. What it has meant to this community is that we have been able to make a difference in the lives of many of our families, many of our students, and impact the poverty that does exist in our state. We are 48th in the nation in terms of the poverty rate, and we feel it in our schools. And as Alan mentioned earlier, our teachers really need our help. They need our support, and this is one effort that has been able to do that. The videos that you saw today are only but a few of the many stories that take place in our schools every day. We hear stories of families who become homeless, and we're able to help them, linking them to services and linking them to improving their own lives through education. We had the opportunity to work together very early on as a board in a community who had several children waiting out for a bus to be picked up to go to school and dropped off, waiting several hours in the cold. It is a community that it's almost like a third world community. No utilities whatsoever, no roads that are prepared to even have a bus come anywhere near their homes. But through this collective impact, in a matter of a month, a community center was put together for those students. It was put together with the help of every single one of the agencies up here, really putting together computers. Thank you. Computers, staffing, a facility, someone to coordinate. And I do want to give a big shout out to our community schools coordinators. They are truly incredible. I call them our linking queens, because that's what they do. They link all of the community resources to our children and to our families. So I think what it has meant to Albuquerque is that we have a strategy for school improvement. This is truly a strategy that does work. It works because we impact the entire family, and we impact them based on what the gaps are in that community. It's not a cookie cutter pattern that we use at all. It really is based on what are those gaps. And we were fortunate to begin with data. We looked at the data and we looked at what kinds of needs are there in our community, what are the gaps, and how can we fill in those gaps. And it's ongoing work. It's ongoing work that many of our partners, including our parents, we have Enlace here, Families United, Juntos, it's everybody working together to address those needs. I think one of the things that we looked at in our schools is how do we develop these resources? How do we bring those resources together? And yesterday, as I visited with the folks that were presenting from Australia, they had a very interesting first point they made. They said, we never ask for money. Never. That's never the first thing we do. We ask for human resources. We ask for the relationships and the building that takes place to make this work important and work in our communities. And I think that was the turning point for Albuquerque in bringing these people together who had the same vision and who had the same philosophy in terms of turning the corner and providing the resources for our community. I think, lastly, I want to make the point that it was results-focused. So when we go back and we look at what is the data showing, we can actually show that our schools have made improvements. They've made improvements in their letter grades. They've made improvements in the academic achievement. They've made improvements in how parents are involved in our communities, and they want to be involved. We just need to open the door for them and teach them how they can help us. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Jose, question for you now is on leadership. And so, all of this great work, we've already alluded to the fact that your leadership has really been instrumental in making this partnership really gel and come together. I want you to talk for a little bit about what it takes to lead an initiative like this, from your perspective as executive director. What have you learned from this experience over the past 2 years?
To be humble and thankful first. I'm probably one of the luckiest guys in the country to have this role. I know my name has been thrown out there a lot. I really appreciate your trust in me. However, as the volunteer who used to attend the meetings, when I was engaged at that time, there was a time where I became disengaged. And the reason that was is because, as Counselor Secretary of State Winter alluded to, it wasn't always easy, and there were some hard times. And when I became disengaged as a volunteer at that time, it became more political with some folks. And there was lack of action because of the politics and the personal agendas that I was being heard, that I was hearing when I was attending these meetings. So when the time came around for this position, they had a great search, great process led by Vi Flores from University of New Mexico. I was submitted my resume and pulled it because of that. And Commissioner Hart-Stebbins was the one who reached out to me and had me rethink it. And I'm grateful for that. So as the person who was fortunate to become the first executive director, my hat's off still. I get a chance to work with the coordinators all the time. And so my hat's off to them because they're in this work too. And at my level, so what this body needed at the time was a coordinator. That's all they needed. So my title is executive director, but for all intents and purposes, I'm a coordinator. I'm just coordinating at a different level. So I think the impact when you begin to work with a group of a bipartisan body, as Gilbert was mentioning, being cognizant of what each of their needs are. Part of my job, a big job, a piece of my job is to protect them, just like you would your partners at your schools. Part of my job was to learn from them as they mentored me, each of them in their own way. So I have 11 mentors. I have many more mentors than that, but 11 I directly report to. To be in this role meant I had to listen quite a bit to their voice and listen to what I was hearing from the sites, the voices of the coordinators and teachers and parents, and really begin to process that and begin to figure out where's the common ground. Everyone was saying the same thing. We want young people to succeed. They were saying it differently. So then what is the common language that we have, and so we can meet common ground? So when early on this position, my first chair was Commissioner Johnson. He said, go do something, because they became stagnant for a while to go do something. But that doing something meant working with each and every school and the coordinators and the teachers at the schools in that learning process. And what it did, the only way I have not yet applied for a grant, I was intentionally, where I actually reached out, Randy Woodcock, United Way, he applied for some grants for us, and that was great. Thank you, Randy. But, however, it was intentional as I was having this conversation with Commissioner Johnson at that time when he was chair. Why? Councilor Winter alluded to it earlier. The board had received a grant and had some money, and as we do as people, sometimes I provided a safety net, and as they all alluded to, this wasn't their full-time job. They were appointed to this board, so having to recognize that, I knew that we had to practice at this high level what the schools have to practice every single day, and that's having hard conversations on equity, on resources, on finances, on partnerships. Have that conversation. So the first two and a half, almost 3 years, and Angela was with me as part of this as we pulled our hair out sometimes together. We take turns on each other. This board had those conversations of resources. So now Councilor Winter and Councilor Garduno, with that funding from the city, are working with the mayor's office, so they have to sign off of that, and providing additional resources for growing some best practice programs, such as a homework diner, to working in the school district of how they change their procurement processes to make it more flexible for nonprofits to partner with schools, and to from the county, it couldn't be done, still can't be done with Jose. So the county really providing the infrastructure, sending over, like, here's 5 staff. You know, if we were gonna have this program, it's not having an impact we would like, what could be done differently, and allowing me to play and those resources like that. Now we have a fabulous team, Linda Sepulveda and Gloria, you guys seen some of them, and Veronica Costa, she's out there too with YDI. So as a leader of this initiative, practicing coordination at a very high level and knowing that they're your boss too was instrumental and needed. And now we're at the point where I am very confident that anyone can, once the grants start coming now, we're in a position we could begin to apply, and everybody understands how messy it is and partner, but everybody understands, like, what can I do? There's some cookies out there that somebody made. It's in our little office downstairs. It's in shape of a heart, and they say yes on them. You have to have yes on your heart, right? I think, Jane, was that you that did that? It was you? Okay, I thought so. You have to have yes on your heart. This board is now, they've done that in relation to community schools, and yes, Gilbert is right. It's not politics and personal agendas at these meetings every month. It really is about the people they serve, and so I'm grateful.
Great. So we've come to the end of our time for this panel discussion, so I want to thank our panelists. I know many of you have a lot of questions about how to engage your leadership back in your communities, and what I would encourage you to do, seek out this distinguished group of leaders during your time here in Albuquerque, ask them questions, learn from their experiences, because they really are playing a key role in this amazing community school movement here in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. So without further ado, I actually want to turn the stage over to an amazing young man who is actually in the middle of an amazing story himself. And we just recently learned that the ABC Community School Partnership is playing a significant role in his life. So Devin, I know you're standing down there at the bottom of the stairs. If you want to come on up, Devin Zani is a 19-year-old young man whose community school story began about a year ago. So Devin, take it away.
Hi, my name is Devin, and my story begins and ends with family. In the past, my family has been driven to homelessness. A lot of times it was because I have 2 younger siblings, a brother and a sister. Me and my siblings would get into trouble and cause my mom a lot of stress. She would have to leave her job to go to our court or our school for whatever reason was going on. But it was about a year ago. My mom was staying in Salt Lake City with my 2 younger siblings, and I was staying in Seattle. I have two daughters, and I was staying in Seattle with them and my girlfriend. And I guess my mom just got really tired of what was going on with my younger siblings, with them getting in trouble and all. So she decided, with the money that she had, that she was gonna take them down to Dallas. So she got a U-Haul and she packed it up, and she thought she was gonna start a new life in Dallas. So she asked me to come down there too, so I got on a Greyhound bus and I went down there. And we were staying in a motel in Dallas for about 2 or 3 weeks, and we had the money to rent an apartment or a place, but nobody would rent to us because we didn't have pay stubs. So we had to look at other options. We started looking for shelter, and the only shelter that would accept my whole family was here in Albuquerque. So we got the rest of our money and we drove all night from Dallas to Albuquerque to Joy Junction, and we were staying at Joy Junction when I started going to Sagebrush, and that's where I met Jose Munoz. He gave me his number, and he was asking my younger siblings about if they were in school, and he wanted to get them enrolled. So he gave me his number, and he told me that if I ever needed anything to call him. So pretty soon after that, it was time for us to leave Joy Junction, and we didn't know where we were gonna go. We were packing up our stuff, and we were really stressed out. We didn't know where we were gonna go. So I remember Jose's number was in my pocket, and he said if I ever needed anything to call him. So I felt like I just really needed something. So like I needed help at that moment. So I was like, well, I might as well call him. So I called him and I let him know the situation, and he told me he would do what he could. And in the past, I remember I've heard those words, like people telling me they'll do what they can, and usually it turned out to be nothing. Like there's a dead end right there. So I didn't really think nothing of it. But during the next hour or so that we were getting ready to leave Joy Junction, Jose gave me a call back, and he told me that he was coming to pick me and my family up. And him and his coworkers came in their personal vehicles, and they picked us up. They took all our stuff, and they took us to a motel. And at that time, we were sleeping on the floor, like we were sleeping on mats, and we were just feeling so blessed to be out of that place. We had a bed, we had a TV, a shower. Like it was really humbling. And after that, we didn't even expect, we got into a program called Heading Home, and they actually moved us into a house for free. And we were just like, oh my God, like we didn't believe it. We didn't, like nothing has ever happened to us like this before. And we've just been so happy. We've been there since the last year. Since we moved there, we're still staying there. And a lot has improved in my life. I'm now working as an intern for Jose through YDI with my girlfriend. Thank you. And my two younger siblings, over the summer, Jose helped us get them into school, into a summer program, and they got caught up on their credits because they were behind, they were getting in trouble. They got caught up this summer, now they're enrolled in Highland, and they're both doing great. I'm also enrolling at CNM right now. I'm in the process of that. And my girlfriend is getting her GED at Emerson. And I'm just, at this point, like, I never knew that when Jose gave me his number, that now today I feel like God put Jose in my family's path that day. And because nothing like this has ever happened to me before, I'm just so glad that I met Jose. I'm so glad that all these resources are available to people like me and that may be in those situations. And I'd just like to express my gratitude for everything that has been given to me, everything that I've been blessed with.
No, that's great. It's dangerous to put a microphone in my hand. You guys know that, right? From last Cincinnati, right? No, but yes, you do. So I hope you heard a reflection of how the panel spoke today about partnership. At a moment's notice, within an hour, we had the city of Albuquerque on the line giving vouchers. We had county employees taking an early lunch break and going to pick up folks with you guys had a lot of stuff still in there, right? To pick up a family of 7 in need. Within a week, a partnership heading home, gathering together and putting that family into a solid home. And it's a nice looking home too, right? Right in the district of a community school, which is becoming hard not to do now, so that's good. That's good. You had a nonprofit, Youth Development Incorporated, who has a process now that you give the resources to hire young people in an organization like the ABC Community School Partnership to house them and employ them and continue to love on them. So that's community school work. And again, I say, you hear my name, all glory to God, but you hear my name. But I'd like all the coordinators to stand up, every coordinator. I just practiced coordination that day, didn't I? That's all it was. These people that stood up are willing every single day to hand out their personal number and lay what they have on the line, their resources, their finances, their time, their talent, their love, and work with other people quickly. And there's thousands of other Devons that they help out there every single day. So we have a call. And it's time for us to make that call. So we have a call to action here. So at your tables, the Coalition for Community Schools has this big vision. All students graduating ready for college, career, and life. And if you look around your table, each and every one of us is responsible for that. However, it's hard to hold each other accountable. And my wife hears this often. I'm 6'4", 250 pounds, and it's kind of hard to hold me accountable. You can fire me. It's hard to hold me accountable. We have to take it upon ourselves, our own personal responsibility, to hold ourselves accountable. So when you look around the table and you go to these sessions that we're about to have, keep that in mind. You're out of town. It's great. We want you to experience New Mexico. But we're here for a purpose right now also. We're here for a mission, and that's for all students to graduate ready for college, career, and life. We're here to learn, as our motto is this year. Tonight we have a reception at the Albuquerque Museum. Come and meet each other. Come and have these conversations. Come tell your community school story of how you are working. What are some of your struggles as the board, as our distinguished panel talked about? How do you work through those together? How have you worked this together? Come to learn from each other on that. Explore Albuquerque tonight. But my saying is, if you hoot with the owls, you got to soar with the eagles. So be there in the morning and continue to learn.